Hey, this is Tyruswoo, and welcome back to another tutorial for RPG Maker MZ. In this tutorial, we're going to talk about how to make entering a region trigger an event. We are going to cover two ways to make it so that if you enter a region, an event will be triggered. And we're going to talk about how one of these ways you should definitely not use, and the other way I highly recommend you use if you're going to have regions trigger events. To get started though, we need to talk about what regions are and what they're good for those who haven't used them very much. So if you go over here to the map editing mode, you go to the R tab, you'll see here that you have all these colored number boxes here, and these represent your regions. What we are going to do in this video is we're going to show how to make a region all the way around the edge of this map and have it trigger one event. Instead of having all these many events here, have it trigger one event. So when you have these many events like this, now we've got the region all the way around region 1 that we've painted. If you have these many events all the way around the edge here, then there could be reasons that you would want to modify the event. And if you had to modify one of these, you'd have to modify all of them. It would involve a lot of copying and pasting of the events in order to get them to change the way you need them to change. In this case, it's an event that takes you out of the map to the overworld map. If you go out the north side, it takes you to the north side on the overworld map. If you go out the south side, it takes you to the south side. If you go out the east side, it takes you to the east. Go out the west, it takes you to the west. So that's what all these events are doing here. Now, we don't really want all these events like this in our case. You could have all these events here, and that's a perfectly fine way to do it, to have these types of transfers, but there are other ways to do it. Another method would be inside each of these to have it trigger a common event, which is something that you can create here and do flow control and create a common event. This makes it so that you can modify all the eventing for all these events in one place. Now, we could do that, but what we really want is we want to be able to paint on a region onto the map and have it so that that region triggers one event. Right now, this region isn't doing anything. We need to make it activate an event when the player steps on the region. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to delete all of these events except for one. All right, so now I've left one event here, and so I'm just going to drag it over here. So we've got one event that represents, this is what we want to have happen. We want to move sound effect, and then we want to transfer the player. So let's go ahead and create a new event. So we are going to make it so that it depends on the regions. One way to do it is with the parallel process region detection method. So this way, it involves this parallel process, which you can go here and you change the trigger to parallel process. This event will then be operating in the background whenever the event is present. So if these conditions are met, there's no conditions, so they're always met if this player's in this map. So now there's this parallel process event running in the background. If you ever do this, definitely name your event to something where it's obvious. Such as naming it parallel process event so that you know that's happening in the background. Okay, so then we want to set it so that it has certain contents in the parallel process. So we want it to check the region the player is in, and then if the player is in region 1 around the outside of the map, to take the player to the outside of the map based off of the direction the player is facing. Okay, so first we're going to get the region. We'll go into event commands, tab 3 under map where it says get location info. We are going to have a variable that this information is stored to. This is going to be the region ID. So we're going to name this region ID of the player. So the region wherever the player is at. And that's going to be variable 1. So variables are very useful. We'll talk about them again in other videos. So we're going to store this information in a variable. The info we're going to store is the region ID, and we're going to use the region that represents where the character, the player, is located. Okay, so we'll press OK. This gets us the region ID of the player and stores it in a variable named region ID of player. Okay. And so now we have that information in that variable. So now let's do a conditional branch, tab 1 under flow control, conditional branch, and we're going to have the condition be variable number 1, which is the region ID of the player. It needs to equal a certain value. This value is going to be the region that we want to make sure that the player is in. And so we're going to set it to equal to 1. Okay, so we're going to press OK. So if the region ID of the player, that's the name of our variable, if that is equal to 1, now it's going to trigger this, now it's going to cause this next set of contents inside the conditional branch to occur. This is where we're going to put our transfers. Now, these, because we want it to be north, south, east, west, take the character to different locations, we need to make conditional branches for that as well. So we'll do new, we'll do conditional branch. We're going to go to character. The player is facing different directions. So we'll say down. If not down, then we want it to check if the player is facing a different direction. So we'll have if and else, and we'll copy that, put it in here, edit it, and we're going to say, okay, now if the player is facing left, so we've got one for down, one for left, we'll copy this, place it inside the else, and then we're going to say if the player is facing right, and copy that, place it inside the else, and this is the last one. We'll say if the player is facing up. All right, and this one doesn't need an else branch. We'll press OK. So now we have all 4 directions, down, left, right, or up. Whichever one the player is facing, then we want a transfer to a certain location. Now, we could add in the transfer event here. We already have one here, so I'm going to go here, hold Shift, copy these with Control C, press OK. And now I'm going to go back to this event and I'm going to paste those contents here. So we've got a move sound effect. This happens with every one of the transfers. So I'm going to cut this and paste it just above. So it would be the same sound effect every time, but moving to different locations. So let's copy the transfer and place it at each one of these. The transfer, you'll see this is the one if the player is facing down. The transfer, we edit it, we'll retain the direction, the player will still be facing down, we'll fade with black, that's good. Where do we want it to go? We want it to go to the overworld to the south side, so we'll place that right there, overworld south side. If the player is facing left, edit it, choose to appear on the left side. If the player is facing right, edit that, choose to appear on the right side. And then if the player is facing up, edit that, and choose to appear on top. That's where it's already at. Okay, so now we've got our transfer working. These are the contents that we really care about happening. And these 2 parts on top, this is just to detect which region the player is in and to cause this to only occur if the region ID of the player equals 1. Okay, this all happens inside of the parallel process trigger. That's why it's always checking. It's always checking over and over and over to make sure that it's always updated as far as which region the player is in. Runs cyclically as long as the event is here on the map. So we press OK. So now we don't need this transfer event anymore because the parallel process is handling it. And if we go back to the regions, we'll see region 1 is all the way around. So now we only have one event there. If we ever wanted to change the location it goes to, we could very easily do so. And also we can just very easily change, like if we wanted to change the edge of the map, we could change it just by copying the region or editing where the region is if we wanted to change that. It's quite nice to use regions for the edges of your maps in this way. But let's play test it. We'll try it out. So let's pull it up. We'll push F4 to enter full screen. Make a new game and we'll go test it out. So previously we'd made it so that there's an event on this tile so that it takes us into the map. It takes us in depending on which direction we go into. And then we can go out again. You'll notice that when I try to step out on the edge of the map, it doesn't even really let me completely step on the edge before it triggers the event because it's already detected the players in that region. Okay, so it just very quickly does it. If that's not what you want, then you may want to try this next method instead, or you may have to fiddle with the wait times or things like that, or some scripting in order to get this to wait until you fully stepped on it. But if you like it like that, and you're not worried about the processing going over and over and over again in the background and bogging down your game, then you could be done right there, because that'll get it so that a region makes it so that an event is triggered. However, I do recommend that you use this next method. This method uses the Event AI plugin. That is a Tyruswoo Studio plugin. So the Event AI plugin, one of its features is the trigger by region entry. Okay, so this is going to allow us to use a plugin and avoid using a parallel process event. So help us get rid of a lot of bugs that way, by avoiding parallel process events as much as possible. And I recommend you use plugins from those that you trust to have very solid code. And that's why I recommend that you use the Tyruswoo Studio plugin, because our software engineer, McCathlin, is excellent and goes through all of our plugins and makes sure they're really solid. Okay, so to get this plugin, you go to Tyruswoo.com and you go to the Event AI. You look for Event AI MZ, that's the plugin. If you haven't joined Tyruswoo.com yet, I would definitely recommend you join. You can be part of our community, and also your support helps us to make these courses and these plugins. However, the plugins are free. You can go ahead and download it here. So let's click on it and download it. So once it's downloaded, I'll save it to the desktop. And then we've got it over here on the desktop, and we'll go back into RPG Maker. We're going to go to Open Folder in order to install this plugin. And we're going to go to the JS for JavaScript under Plugins, and you'll see some default plugins that come with the software. We're going to get back to the desktop here so that we can open this folder. This is a zipped folder, so this will need to be unzipped in order to work. But if you just copy it in, a lot of times you don't have to worry about the unzipping. So Windows is going to handle that for me here. So I'm going to take this file, the one that says Tyruswoo_eventai.js. We're going to copy that in right here. So now it's in our plugins folder for our game. So now we can exit out of those windows and go back into our project, and we'll go under Tools to Plugin Manager, and on our plugin list we'll double click and we'll choose the name of a plugin. The name we'll choose the Tyruswoo Event AI plugin. We'll press OK, and now you can read over some of the other features that are available in the Tyruswoo Event AI plugin, but let's just press OK. This we're just going to use the region entry trigger. That's the feature that we're going to use today. Okay, so we're going to now go back to event editing mode and go into our event here. And instead of using a trigger with parallel process, let's get rid of that right away. Okay, so let's change that back to player touch or action button. It doesn't really matter because we're going to override that with the region entry trigger. And so that way we don't have to have our parallel process event going all the time. So we're going to cut this portion. This is the portion of the event that we need to occur when the player enters the region. So we'll cut that, and we are going to delete these parts. We don't need to use variables to detect the region anymore, or the get location info command. We're going to paste. This is the contents of that we want to occur with this event, and at the top of it we're going to right click, we're going to choose new. For a new event command, we're going to choose a plugin command from tab 3, plugin command. We're going to choose our plugin name, Tyruswoo Event AI, and we're going to choose the command we want it to run. We're going to choose trigger region entry. Okay, so we put this at the top of an event page, and it'll run when the player enters a region. We choose which region ID we want it to be. In our case, we're choosing region ID 1. We'll press OK. And so now this event will occur when the player steps on region ID 1. Okay, so we'll apply that, we'll press OK. So you see it's basically the same contents, but we no longer have to use the parallel process trigger. Now it uses this region entry trigger from the plugin. So we'll press OK, and we'll save that. Let's test that out. All right, so we'll choose new game again. And now we're going to go in. And again, you'll see that we can step on the region and it'll take us out. You notice something a little bit different here though. It allows us to go all the way onto the tile before it triggers. So it allows us to fully enter the region. So you'll see that it does that. So that's nice. We've handled that for you with this plugin so that it works like a normal event that way. You get all the way onto the tile before it triggers the event. So that's nice, but more importantly, the parallel process is gone. You don't have to worry about that process just chugging along in the background, which may be okay if there's not that much going on your map, but if you've got a bunch of things going on in your map, then watch out for bugs with parallel process events. Anyway, so we talked about several different methods. It is perfectly legitimate and good to use the default method where you just put events all the way around. It is nice to use the regions because then everyone knows that there isn't one of these events somewhere that was accidentally messed up, because there's only one event that's being triggered and you can see exactly where it is going to. Preferably, I definitely recommend that you use the Tyruswoo Event AI MZ plugin. So it is free to download. So if you like this video, please do like and subscribe. And thank you so much for learning with Tyruswoo Studio.